Welcome to today's podcast interview. I have brought on Meredith and Craig. Meredith and Craig, welcome.
Thank you. We're
Thank
excited to
you.
be here.
So, today we're talking about something that I think is a pain point I see all of the time, whether it's in clients or the life assessment that I have come across, which is relationships. But before we dive into that, please give a little background. Where do you both live and what do you do?
Well, we are based in Canada at least half the year. We sometimes try to escape winter and head south, but we're based in Canada and we are marriage coaches. We help folks with their marriage, heal their marriage.
Well, and on that note, I think what are the divorce statistics? Definitely over 50%, but what is it currently?
Well, actually, divorce statistics overall are actually coming down.
Hmm.
They're lower than 50% now. There are some key demographics where divorce statistics are higher, and that is like the 55 plus age range and entrepreneurs.
And empty nesters seem to
Yeah.
be increasing and most of the population decreasing.
Interesting. What do you think the change is in that?
I think it's interesting when you look at the empty nester, that sort of later in life divorce specifically. I think there's a lot of elements to it, but I think a big one is that this generation that's at this age now is the first one that's really been a dual income household where women have a little bit more autonomy outside of the household, and they have the financial means and the independence to be able to divorce. I think there's also an element of the kids are gone. And, we've sort of had this joint purpose of raising these wonderful children together for the last 20 years. And once the house gets really quiet, then we suddenly realize that
We didn't put in that level of effort on our relationship. It took a backseat to the kids. And now that the kids are gone, there's a bit of a wall that's been kind of
yeah.
built here. And we're not sure how to deal with that. And so there's this gap between them. And a lot of couples choose to, rather than deal with that gap, leave the relationship.
Well, the saying I use all the time is if you're not growing together, you're growing apart naturally.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
100%. Yeah,
which is actually one of the biggest issues you see with entrepreneurs, which is the other one with a higher divorce rate. Because if unless you're both entrepreneurs, usually with entrepreneurship comes a lot of personal growth, and if only one of you is doing a lot of personal growth, then you see a gap develops there too.
Yeah. All right. Well, I want to play that angle for just a moment because I shared with you guys before I'm currently single and I'm not even dating, but I'm open to it. But on that note, because of all the personal development I've done and continue to do, it's very top priority and a high value for me. Not everybody is there. And so, can we talk about values and standards and maybe the disconnect when it comes to relationships and picking that partner?
Yeah, I mean, I think something important when you're finding that relationship, first of all, I think not settling, right? As you're
yeah.
doing all this personal growth and development, having those high standards is good. I was single for a long time before I met Craig, and I used to hear it a lot. Like, your expectations are too high, your standards are too high, and it's unrealistic. And boy, am I glad I never listened to all of my friends and all the people that were telling me to lower my standards because I'm not realistic. Because it's nonsense. You've got standards for yourself, you've got standards for your partner, and that's good and that's okay.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And I'm glad you didn't wait or you didn't settle. You waited. You stuck true to who you were and what you wanted.
I also think that when you're looking for that person, part of those standards, shared values, shared doesn't always have to be a shared purpose, but alignment in how you want to show up in the world and who you want to be.
We've actually seen that, like some of our friends, we go to a lot of personal growth events and we see some of the same people. So we've got some friends that we see at these events, and there's one person in particular that he was so into developing his business and developing his mindset, and he had come from a really tough upbringing, a really tough life, and he wanted to better himself. And so he was on this trajectory, and his girlfriend just wasn't where he was, and it was such a struggle for him when we would talk with him at these events, and
Yeah.
he was just beside himself with what to do because he really loved this person, but he could feel the distance between them just absolutely like just growing. And so ultimately he ended up not being with this woman because she just wasn't in a place where he was. And it really meant so much to him to leave behind the past, that life that he thought back in the day that he was destined for, but now knows that he has the power to change that and move on and actually achieve the life that he wants. And he didn't want someone who he felt was kind of holding him back from that. So kudos to anyone who has the strength to take the road that's a little bit lonelier at first, but to get to the end where they actually want with the person that is meant for them.
So talking about personal development in relationships, I shared with you both that I love Dr. Joe Dispenza. And what Dispenza said specifically, when you get into spirituality and universal laws, like attracts like, your vibe attracts your tribe. But what Dispenza said is make a list of all the things you want in a partner. And then you have to become that.
Yeah.
And like what we talked about, Hollywood and all the conditioning is that somebody completes me or that I bring, 50 and 50. But let's talk about how important it is to bring like the whole version. I think of it as a Sunday. So like I'm perfectly whole on my own. And that partner is like the cherry on top.
Yeah.
He's the added bonus, but I'm not looking for someone to complete me.
100%.
Yeah.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. I also grew up believing a good marriage is 50-50.
Yeah.
And when you're trying to divide up 100% responsibility between two people, it creates confusion and it creates ambiguity. And is that your 50% or is that my 50%? And I'm going to wait for you to apologize first because I think what you did was worse because I'm keeping score. When in fact, if each of you takes 100% responsibility for where your relationship is, whether it's a marriage or business partnership, any relationship really, if you take 100% responsibility for your marriage, meaning you're willing to apologize first, you're willing to say, I love you first, you're willing to ask for the hug, you're willing to take the garbage out, fold the lunch, whatever it is that needs to be said or done, if you're taking full responsibility for that, you're going to step up and you're going to do that stuff. And then when you both are doing that, you've got a 200% marriage and that, or 200% relationship, whatever it is, then that marriage, that relationship is unstoppable. Like you are both leveling each other up together.
And when you're bringing that 100%, then you're becoming that person that you want in your spouse. You're showing up as your full self. You're taking 100% responsibility, which is exactly what you want in the other person. They're going to do the same thing, and it just builds, and it's exponential. Really,
Mm-hmm.
it's 100 and 100 makes a 200% marriage, but the result, the output of that is exponential.
Mm-hmm.
I- In your, oh, go ahead.
The other thing I was going to add was you said like they don't complete me because we get asked all the time what makes a happy marriage, and it's two happy people in a marriage together. Like
Yeah.
it's not, we hear it all the time, and I used to think it when I was younger, it's your job to make me happy. He doesn't make me happy and I'm going to leave because he doesn't make me happy. And it's like happiness is an inside job. I make me happy, he makes him happy, and then together we're happy in our marriage, which makes a happy marriage.
All right, I'm bringing it to the table. I despise this saying, which is quite a paradigm, but happy wife, happy life. To me, my perspective is number one, it makes women like this kind of like a villain and it makes men a doormat and like this power struggle. But I've heard it said, happy spouse, happy house. And so on that note, how can we help people realize that it's a partnership and we both came from different upbringings and we have our subconscious mind and our beliefs and what we witnessed from our parents and we have so much baggage and crap. So how do we bring that to the table and do some of the shadow work so that you can build a thriving partnership?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and one of the critical components to a relationship, to your point a second ago, is that it's two individuals. And so we all have that baggage, but we also have to go on our own personal growth journey as individuals and bring the best version of ourselves into the marriage. If you have two people who are doing that work, that inner work on themselves and coming together in a marriage, that's where you start to have the exponential growth. So it starts with the self. And you can't, just because you're in a marriage, you can't get away from who you are and the person in the mirror. You still are that person. You have to carry that person through life. You need to deal with your own insecurities, your own issues that you had with your parents growing up, or whatever happened in your life. Sometimes it wasn't our fault that it happened, but it's 100% our responsibility to deal with it now. And so it's just something that we have to take with us, and we have to do that inner work. And if both partners are doing that inner work and then they show up in the marriage together, it's sky's the limit. You got something you want to say?
Nailed it.
Nux. All right. So on that note, I want to switch gears and talk about how do we create thriving relationships in today's world, and how do we have that space for compassion and understanding, and like not taking things personally because we're humans and we're going to have off days. So how do you build, what are some daily rituals or regular practices to build that thriving relationship?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
So coming back a little bit to what I was just talking about with the personal self reflection, and it's really understanding that you're worthy of the relationship that you want, and you really have to know and believe that in your heart. Like you have to do the inner work to know that you're worthy. So like little things like Mel Robbins has this thing like high-fiving yourself in the mirror, like looking yourselves in the eye in every day while you're brushing your teeth and telling yourself, I love you. Like they seem like cheesy little things, but they actually make a huge difference in the way you feel about yourself. And when you can change how you feel about yourself, then you have more grace and compassion and empathy for yourself. And when you have that for yourself, then you're more likely to have that for your spouse. And so that's how you start to build and maintain this compassion and this empathy and this grace and this kindness.
I also think that going back to the 100% responsibility. So if I'm coming into a situation, we're having a disagreement about something, and I'm taking 100% responsibility for what's happening, he is not going to feel attacked by my approach to that because I'm taking responsibility for whatever it is that's going on. And so when he doesn't feel attacked, he's not going to get defensive. Is you just won't, because the other part of it is you're not keeping score. If I'm taking 100% responsibility, I'm not doing the what you did was worse, so you need to apologize to me first. Then I'll apologize to you because I know I owe you an apology, but I think yours is a bigger deal. So I'm going to wait for you to apologize to me, and then I will give you your apology. That is the opposite of 100% responsibility. 100% responsibility is I know I owe you an apology. Here's my apology, and I'm hoping I'm going to get one back, but I'm not doing it for the apology back. So when I can lead with my responsibility, the apology that I owe, the statement that I need to make, then I'm not keeping score, because scorekeeping is like literally the fastest way to breed resentment in your relationship, whatever relationship it is. Scorekeeping is like the express lane to disaster. If I'm not keeping score and I'm bringing my 100% responsibility, he's not going to feel attacked and defensive.
And I think one other thing to add to this is if you do a little bit of work understanding what it is that your relationship goals, like what is it that you're building towards, like what's the big goal that we're trying to achieve, and it's like your life plan or whatever it is. And if you know that you've got that north star there and you're both working towards that together and you're on the same team rowing in the same direction, then you know that when something comes up and you're going to disagree potentially on the path to get there, but you both agree on the end place where you want to go. And so you have a little bit more grace and a little bit more empathy when you know that you're on the same team rowing in the same direction, and you have a little bit of what's I guess
A conflict?
yeah, when something arises, you give the benefit of the doubt. You because you know you're on the same team. And so I think that's really helpful, is knowing what your north star is.
I love that visual too. Okay, so here's what came to mind when you were talking about this scorekeeping. What came to mind for me was the idea of emotional intelligence. And especially, I tend to work with kind of like midlife crisis men who their relationships, they're either divorced, they're having affairs, they're unhappy and unfulfilled. But what I realize is their 7 or 8 year old version of them is currently running their relationship. So, of course, it's failing, right? And so let's talk about the idea of emotional intelligence, and then I'm going to bring it to something else. Let's
Sure.
start there.
I think part of emotional intelligence is being able to see the bigger picture, like the forest for the trees. It's when you get caught up in the tit for tat, like, I took the garbage out last time. It's your turn to take the garbage out. When you get caught in that scorekeeping mentality, like that's a pretty low emotional intelligence. And I'm going to come at you because I'm upset because now I got to take the garbage out and I didn't want to take the garbage out. And now I'm going to come at you that way, which is obviously not taking a responsibility. It's coming at them from an attack and you're going to respond in a defensiveness posture. When we come at things from that perspective with that sort of low level of emotional intelligence and having lost the big picture, I've lost the forest for the trees when I'm pissed at you about taking the garbage out. Like I've literally lost the North Star. I've lost the whole plan. I've completely lost myself and where we are and where we're trying to go when I'm arguing about that kind of stuff. If I feel like there's an imbalance in our responsibilities and I'm feeling maybe a little unappreciated, then that's a different conversation. Can we have a conversation about how I'm feeling? And it's all I statements, it's all specific things. It's not, you never do this and I always do this. Big generalities, I think, is also a sign of low emotional intelligence because you're, blowing things up and speaking in hyperbole when that gets you nowhere because the person listening to you is tuning you out when you're speaking in always and never level generalities instead of very specific instances of how something specific made you feel and why.
Because then we become defensive instead of
Exactly.
effective listening.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Craig, I want to bring it back to something that you touched on and the idea of like feeling worthy. And I had to Google it, I had to look it up. But are you guys familiar? I think it's pretty new, but there's a new series on Netflix called Nobody Wants This with Kristen Bell.
Oh no.
So
No,
there was
haven't.
she's, it's based in California. And so far, the plot line is that she ends up being attracted to this rabbi. She's not Jewish. So it's a very interesting dynamic. But what I loved about the episode I saw last night is, these younger kids, these kids these days, but the term is an ick. So when somebody gives you kind of like, ooh, the ick, and then we can self-sabotage or immediately put walls up and brush potentially a great partner away. But why I bring that up is if we don't feel worthy, we can unconsciously self-sabotage an amazing relationship and repel people. But on
Yes.
that note, the scene from last night was she came up with an ick, and it was the way he said Prego, like the marinara sauce. And because so he bought these big bouquet of flowers to give her mom, and the way he said Prego with an accent, she got the ick and was literally going to end the relationship. And he, from emotional intelligence, this guy, because as a rabbi, does relationship counseling and stuff, he very understanding and didn't take it personally. And he came to her, I could tell something was going on today before you sabotage this. So called her out, but very empathetic and said, but I really like you. So on that note, can we talk about, and I imagine you guys come up against this in what you do, but a lot of people feel unworthy and undeserving of love. And if they don't love themselves, they could never attract love from a partner.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah, it's like that inner work. It's when you're dealing with relationships and trying to improve your relationship with your spouse, the first thing you think about is communication, intimacy, those types of things, trust. But really, it starts with your relationship with yourself. You have to start there. You literally have to start to love yourself and build your relationship with yourself to the point where you're not looking for external validation. You're not looking for other people to tell you that you're worthy, that you just know in your bones that you are worthy. You just know it. Like, it's like, I don't care what this person has to say. I know that I'm worthy of everything that's out there for me. And so then when you get to that place, then you start working, then you have that position where you now have two people, hopefully the other person's doing that same inner work, and you go to, now let's attack the issues with communication and trust and vulnerability and intimacy and all those things. So yeah.
No, I mean, I feel like a living example of that. Like, and you said something in the lead up to this as you may sabotage your relationship. I think May is being super generous. I think most people will at some point sabotage a relationship that they don't feel worthy of. Like just
Right.
period, end of story. It's gonna happen. It could be the greatest relationship in the world and it would be the best relationship for you, but you don't feel worthy of it. You will sabotage it. You'll self-sabotage and you'll get rid of it.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm bringing up another Netflix. Are you familiar with the comedian Daniel Sloss?
Nope.
No.
So I think he's Scottish, but he had a series on Netflix and it was called Jigsaw. And the reason I bring this up, I think it's an amazing, an hour-long special, and he talks a lot about relationships. And damn, he is on point. But one of them talks about, he said, as an example, if you only love yourself 20%, which I do ask clients on a scale of 1 to 10 rank self-love, and generally I'd say it's a 4 or under what I
Mhm.
see. So Daniel is saying if you only love yourself 20% and you're in a relationship and they show you a little bit more, 30%, that is still failing. That is less than 50%. And so 100% it's an inside job. And I know this from personal experience. In my 20s, I dated emotionally unavailable workaholic men. Why? That was my dad. So
Yeah.
until I understood from an adult perspective my patterns and behaviors and that I no longer wanted to do that, as a little girl, I created a story. So we have to pay attention to our stories, right? A little,
Hmm.
my younger self created a story. I'm not worthy and deserving of dad's time and attention. As
Hmm.
an adult, I can see that my dad was working to provide for his family. But the little girl didn't know that. So anyway, the self-awareness and the personal growth and since then, because I filled up my own cup and have not arrogance, but confidence, and I know what I bring to the table
Mhm.
and the values, and I've done all of that, I expect that in a partner. And I
Yeah.
think, go ahead.
Sorry. No, sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
It's yeah. You now have this self belief, this self worth inside you. You're no longer chasing your dad's love. Like you don't need it to feel whole.
Yeah.
You're not dating those men anymore as a replacement for your dad's love because you already have that within you now.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's really cool.
And no fault to my dad. Like I would never
No,
fault him,
no.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But until we do that inner work and from a new perspective and a maturity, then we can have compassion. And our parents did the best they could at the time. With I know if my parents had me today, I'd have a very different upbringing. All right. So something that you guys wanted to touch on, I think this is very important, and I think it's whether it's romantic or work or familial, but conflict resolution in relationships. Let's talk
Yes,
about it.
please. Yeah. It's something that comes up all the time. And I think, we see it come a lot from most of us don't like discomfort, right? We shy away from what's uncomfortable, so when a conflict arises, it feels easier in the moment to put that away, sweep it under the rug, make it go away, rather than actually bottoming it out, resolving it, and dealing with it in the moment. The problem with that short term sort of solution, it gives you short term comfort today in the moment, but then that situation is simmering under the surface. It's under that rug. It's going to pop back out at some point. And every time it pops out bigger. And
Yeah.
so life is actually so much easier if you can deal with the short term discomfort of working through that conflict.
It gets worse if you deal with it in the moment, as uncomfortable as it is, it's never going to be easier than that moment.
Mm-hmm.
If you put it away, it's like it grows, it gets bigger, and then you open the closet door and it's this big thing and it blows out at you, and now it's a bigger thing that you have to now deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you would just not put it in the closet, let's just deal with it now, it becomes less scary, it becomes less of a thing.
Yeah, and you actually get closer and more connected on
Yeah.
the other side of actually resolving it, which is what we're all missing. When we sweep it under the rug, we walk on eggshells around it and we have this disconnection between us. If we can actually resolve it, we feel closer in the end once we wade through the discomfort. And so we've got five.
Before you go
Yep.
there, I think that's one of the key. If we can change belief about conflict, and we, instead of seeing it as discomfort, we can actually, if we can change that mindset and actually see it as an opportunity to grow closer, it changes how you approach and how willing you are to approach it in the moment versus, oh, this is going to be awful, I'm putting this away. No, this is actually going to be good for us.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
What about, and I talked about this in the pre-call, what about when you have two totally different personalities or even like attachment styles? I'm very direct and blunt and forward. I don't beat around the bush. If something's bothering me, you're going to know. But if that's one partner and the other partner personality is more shy or introverted or anxious or avoidant, how do you create space and resolve two totally different personalities?
And so this actually, this framework is going to, it almost, it has built in a little bit for that personality, that avoidant personality. There's a little bit of a built-in um, tool for that person. So do you want?
And yeah, we'll jump into it. And I also think not losing your empathy through the process.
Yeah.
Right. One person being direct and one person being avoidant is a tough integration. However, there's a difference between being direct and being hurtful, right? You're being direct. You're not going to say it in a way that's going to hurt someone who's avoiding. So it's keeping that directness without crossing the line and having a little bit of empathy for how they're better going to hear something. They're going to hear something better if you soften the edges of it. Still say what you need to say with the edges softened. And on the flip side, the person who's avoidant maybe needs a few minutes to collect themselves, like to process what's being said so that they can, better articulate where they're coming from. And that's okay. A break is okay within a certain parameter. So we'll explain that in the process, because we do have a break built in if it's needed. And so step one of the process is maintaining the respect. And we've got a few, I don't know, four ways of keeping the respect in a conflict, in a disagreement when you're having it. And they're simple things. It's no name calling. Like never, ever, ever, never, ever, ever, like in any situation, is it ever okay to call someone a name? It's just not. Like calling your spouse, calling your business partner, calling your friend a mean name, it's just never okay. Never.
Erodes trust.
Yeah, it's just never okay.
Yeah.
Second thing is no yelling. We often start yelling because we feel like we're not being heard, but yelling is not going to make you more heard. It's going to have the opposite effect. It's going to trigger the other person. Potentially, they're going to shut down. They're going to stop listening. Yelling, you think it's helpful. It really is not helpful. It's counterproductive to what you're trying to accomplish. No winning. Some of us come into an argument or disagreement and we want to win. We want to commit on the winning side of the argument. The problem with winning an argument is, in order for me to win, you have to lose. That's how winning works. But we're married, so we're on the same team, which means when you lose, I lose. So there really isn't a way to win an argument.
So it's less about focusing on winning the argument. Like you can either, like there's a saying, you can be right or you can be happy, and it's never more true than this. Like we're not looking to win the argument, we're looking to come to a resolution.
Yeah. And then the last way to keep respect is no vulnerabilities. When you're in a relationship with someone, married, friendship, otherwise, they have shared things with you that are vulnerable for them. And that's how you build connection. You want them to do that. The fastest way for them to stop doing that is for you to start throwing that stuff at them in an argument. If you're disagreeing on something and you start trying to press buttons with vulnerabilities that they've shared with you, you are killing your connection completely. So like, big giant no. So that's the first step, is keep the respect in the conflict always.
Step two, listen to understand. Like so often we are in a conversation and we are listening, or we appear to be listening, so that we can come back and respond with what we want to say. And the whole time this conversation is happening, the person in front of me is saying something, but I'm not listening to any of that. It's not landing. I'm just thinking about how I'm going to come back at them with my point of view. Instead of that, we need to really pay attention to being intentional about listening to what they're saying and getting their perspective. So it's listening to understand where they're coming from.
Plus, when you do that, you let them finish talking. They feel heard.
Yeah.
So then they're less likely to interrupt you when you have your You have your time. So listening to understand is huge. Number three is finding something to agree on. It can be teeny tiny. It literally can be like feel irrelevant to the situation at hand, but find that first thing to agree on. And the secret to that is you have to have listened to what they're saying. You'll never find something to agree with them on if you haven't actually heard their perspective or where they're coming from. So finding that little teeny, teeny, tiny seed of agreement is the third step. Fourth step?
And then the fourth step is what we were talking about earlier is sometimes if it's getting a little heated, or someone is an attachment style that you were talking about with the person you were referencing, they're avoidant, then they may need some time to consider what's been said here, gather their thoughts. Maybe they're not in the same place as you. Maybe you've had this conversation in your mind 100 times and you're having it now, and this is the first maybe they're hearing of it, or they're processing this differently than you, and they may need some time, and that's okay. It's just we have to communicate that. We have to understand. We can't just leave someone hanging to say, I'm done here, walk away. It's no, can I just have a half an hour? I'm going to go for a walk. I do my best thinking in nature. I'm just going to go and process what we're talking about, and then we'll come back here in half an hour and we'll finish this off. Mm-hmm. So it's taking a break, which is totally fine, but with the communication and some sort of resolution already planned ahead of time.
Like resolution in terms of we're coming back together.
On that note, I've heard, and I really liked this, I think that's so important, the person who needs that 20, 30-minute break, that it is their responsibility to bring it back up.
Correct.
Yeah, it's almost like it's agreed ahead of time. We're going to go away for a half an hour or an hour, or we're going to after dinner, or whatever the schedule is that works for you. And then we're going to come back together. And it's pre-agreed upon that we're going to continue this conversation at this sort of date and time.
Yeah, don't leave it out there. In the moment when you're going to take the break, already have the time, like already have that agreement in place so that it doesn't fall to someone to have to come back later to 100% responsibility. Who's like, let's just do it now in the moment. Mm-hmm. What's the fifth step?
The fifth step is to resolve. Oh, no, we didn't finish the fourth step. When you come back together to finish it, it's not a rehash of the whole problem.
Yeah.
It's a summarize where we're at, and now we turn our attention to the solution, because what we focus on, we get more of. So if we continue to cycle on the problem and focus on the problem, we will never bring it to resolution. So a summary of the problem, and now a shift in focus to solution, because when you focus on solutions, you get more creative, you will find a solution. And then that's the fifth step, is to resolve it, to bring it to solution.
And when you actually resolve it, you're going to, through this process, you get closer, you connect. You're going to now build from here a stronger relationship.
And the bonus of it all is you never have to argue about that thing ever again.
Hope.
I mean, if you've actually resolved it, then in that way, however it showed up, it will never show up that way again. It may come in masked in another way, and then you got to resolve it again. But that, in theory, never should be argued, conflicted, disagreed about again, because you've actually brought it to resolution.
So, question for the two of you, and this could probably be a podcast in itself. But when it comes to relationship dynamics, and I resonate with this at some point, that women simply want to be heard. So a lot of times when we come, we just want to vent and we want to be heard, where men want to solve problems. Mm-hmm. Now, women aren't necessarily looking for feedback. We just want to vent. Mm-hmm. So how do you dance that?
Well, this is something that I've definitely had to get used to and learn and figure out. And it's really about understanding, one, that the default is probably that when she comes to me with an issue, that she's likely just wants me to hear about it. She likely just wants to vent and get it out of her.
And include you in my experience.
Totally. So that would be my default position. However, there are times where she might be looking for my help with something. And so it's really just about understanding that we wear multiple hats, and it's just ask her a question. Like when she brings me the problem, just say, am I listening to help you figure something out, or am I just listening to let you feel heard? And so then she'll tell me. And so it's really just about point blank ask. Like if you don't know, just ask.
And that principle applies in so many situations because we're not mind readers, either of us. It really doesn't matter how much I love him and how in sync and connected I think we are. He still cannot read my mind. And I'm setting him up for failure when I expect him to. And so part of that is just being clear on what I want and what I need and asking him the same thing, what he wants and what he needs, because I can guess that isn't always going to be effective and kind of a waste of time. So it's always better just to lead with curiosity and ask.
Yeah, it's interesting because we're both coaches too. So sometimes we struggle with a problem and we want to help like we would help anyone else. And so we go in and we try to coach. And sometimes that's not what you have to really tread lightly there. That's not what she's looking for or I'm looking for in that moment. So you have to be really diligent about flipping that default switch that sometimes might come naturally to you.
Yeah.
What I wrote down that I think would be helpful, and I'll use it in the future, whether it's me or the partner, but I can come to it saying, I want to be heard. And then so I'm prefacing, I just want to be
Mm-hmm.
heard. Or I can
Yeah.
preface, I want to be helped, and
Mm-hmm.
then spew it all, right? So just
Yeah.
communicate.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's what I want to ask. We have touched on a lot. If we could summarize or boil all of this down, what do you believe are some, like, if we could narrow it down to three or whatever you believe, what are like the key things to create that thriving relationship?
I mean, I think the first thing to create a thriving relationship is the mindset of 100% responsibility. Like that in and of itself solves so many issues. So many. Second thing, I think is fun. I think it's super overlooked. It's it doesn't get enough play and it really is the foundation for trust, for communication, for intimacy, all those things. If you think about the last time you really had fun with someone, all of those things were thriving. And so I think we in our grown up lives, because there's so much to do as a grown up, that fun falls way down our priority list. And especially in relationships, I think fun really is an underrated strategy to have a thriving marriage or relationship.
And then a couple more to add to those is what we talked about earlier around the relationship with yourself and the personal growth of understanding who you are, what you want, that you are worthy. I think that is critical to the success of any relationship. You can only give to others what you have for yourself. And then I would say that that North Star that we talked about, understanding what you as a team are trying to achieve, what your end goal is, what's that North Star. If you know that, then so much else will come together because you know that you're a team and that energy that benefit of the doubt is always there, that energy that you both have, you're now channeling that towards something really cool.
All right, I'd love to ask, what are some of you guys, daily rituals or regular practices that keep this top of mind and intentional and mindful in your relationship?
We've got a few things.
So for the fun, it's a little. So there's a piece of. Am I going to share this?
Yeah, this is
I am. I'm going to share.
Yeah, go for it.
So, so there was this cardboard. During COVID, we were sent face masks. So, everyone had face masks they had to wear during to go to the grocery store, and the packaging was cardboard, and it looked like a
It looked a little bit like a penis.
it looked like a penis. And so I created it. And so now we hide that around the house and we just have fun. I hide that somewhere and she'll just open a drawer, it'll fall out and we'll have a laugh and she'll hide it on me. And so we go back and forth hiding this thing all throughout the house for the other person to randomly find. Just a little laugh, a little joke, keeps things light throughout the day. So that's one thing that we do to keep things light.
Yeah.
If you're looking for that.
We also go for a walk together
every day.
Every day. It's usually our delineation sort of between like work days over, evening is starting type of thing. Usually, not always, but that's usually what we do. But every single day we go for a walk because it's just sort of intentional, focused, quality time together. We're not on our phones. We're not writing emails. We're not doing anything else besides just catching up, and we spend most of our day within an arm's length of each other, but we're still kind of catching up on how like this podcast, for example. We'll go for a walk shortly and we'll talk about how we experience this podcast. We're sitting shoulder to shoulder, but we're going to have different takeaways and different moments, and we're going to talk about it. And that's what we do literally every single day to feel connected.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, we always have that check in. And we didn't really talk about it a lot here, but it's really key to building that connection with your partner at the end of the day versus like, rather than say something like, how was your day? It's more about going deeper than that. It's like, what was the best part of your day?
Mm-hmm.
Or how did you experience that podcast today? Like, what was the best part of that podcast for you? Or
getting specific.
Yeah, like just random, questions throughout the day. And we always say I love you and have a kiss before we go to sleep every night, so that who knows what happens, but at least we ended the day like that. So I mean, those are a couple, I would say, key things that we do for our relationship every day.
Yeah.
And from the coaching you've done, if you could give like the one thing that, whether you're single, married, dating, whatever, what is the one thing that somebody could start that could really ignite transformation in their relationship?
One thing.
Tough.
Yeah, because it's
But to get started, right? Like,
yeah.
if you want to lose 100 pounds, or if you want to run a marathon,
you got to start with one step.
Yeah. I think it all boils down to how you feel about yourself in the end. Yeah. No matter what relationship you're in, single, married, business, it doesn't matter. I think it really does all boil down to your self-worth, because you don't rise to the level of your hopes and dreams. You settle for what you think you're worthy of. And so that work on self-worth is never wasted, no matter where you are in your life. And so whether that's like every single day when I get up, the second thing I do, because like I go pee first, and then when I'm washing my hands and then looking in the mirror after, I always make eye contact with myself and say, I love you, I'm proud of you, any other maybe little nuggets for the day. And then I'll give myself literally a high five in the mirror every single day. And it's, to his point, it sounds cheesy, and I struggled with it, didn't do it for a long time, because I thought, yeah, I get it intellectually. I understand how that works. Like, I get the whole premise of it, so I'm good. But it's a very different thing to understand something than it is to feel it. And you only feel it when you do it. And making eye contact with yourself, smiling at yourself and saying, I love you and I'm proud of you, is not the easiest thing in the world to do at first. It takes it takes some work. And so I think if everyone could do that every day, I think the whole world would change.
I agree. It's the same. Like it's the one relationship you have throughout your entire life, from the day you're born to the day you die. Mm-hmm. And so it's really getting confident self-worth, like just understanding who you are, getting that relationship with yourself right. And when you do, everything else changes.
Agreed. All right. To wrap up the interview, I have a few rapid fire questions for you.
Sure.
Maybe we can base this around relationships, but I won't confine you.
Okay.
What is a quote or motto that you live by?
For me, it's the universe is always working in your favor.
I feel like I have a quote that I write everywhere and my mind is drawing a blank. Be the change you want to see in the world. I think that one, I've resonated with that since I was 20. It still applies.
Okay, this one I will make more specific. Whether it's personal development or relationships, what is one book you're currently reading or highly recommend?
You Are the Mountain by Brianna Wiest. It's great.
Yeah, it is a great book. That is a really good book. So many. The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks.
The Big what?
The Big Leap.
Oh, yeah. So Zone of Genius, right? That one's all about Zone of Genius, right?
Yes.
Yeah. What was yours? You're the Mountain?
You Are the Mountain, Brianna Wiest.
Yeah, I've heard of that. Okay.
Cool. That's a really good book. Yeah.
I love new books. All right. Final question. And maybe we could go to like early stages of your relationship. What advice would you give your younger self?
Stop caring what everyone else thinks about you. It really doesn't matter. It only matters what you think about you. Does this make you respect yourself more or less? That's all. Who cares?
listen to your intuition more. Like I think so often in my life, I had a whisper inside of me that I would explain away or ignore or go a completely different way. And obviously, I needed to do that. That was my journey. I needed to do that. I think you can learn lessons a little quicker if maybe you listen to your intuition more, though. And so I would say when you have that little whisper, because eventually that whisper turns into a scream. Eventually it comes out one way or another. So
Yeah.
listen to it earlier and sooner, and maybe you save yourself some harder lessons down the line.
Yes, such a great note to end on. This was a great conversation, Meredith and Craig. Thank you both so much for joining me.
Oh, it was our pleasure.
Thank
Thanks for
you
having us.
so much.